Go.
So, hi, Popsy.
Well, hi, honey. How are you today?
I am good.
Good to see ya.
Good to see you too. So, what was it like when I was little and you you got the call that I was early?
You were early. You were 29 weeks, weren't you? You were a real preemie. You were 3 pounds. Excuse me. And we went in to see, and you were in one of those incubators, I guess they call it. And Nana and I came to the hospital, and we had to go into the scrub room. We had to scrub ourselves all up and put on a gown and a hat and gloves and a mask, because we had to be germ-free where you were. And we went in to look at you through the little isolette, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And you were teeny tiny. You were the size of much smaller than a football. You were this little teeny thing. And we had a chance to hold you. Well, we went to see you twice. And eventually they left. We went down a couple nights later. We had an opportunity to hold you. And you were so fragile. I held you by one hand.
So I was so small I could fit in one
in my hand. Yeah. You were so sweet. Yeah, that I can remember very well.
Do you know how long I was?
You know, I guess you were in there about a month, I think.
Like
several weeks, I believe.
Do you know how tall I was as a tiny one?
Oh, you were 8 inches long, probably, or less than that.
And I was in there for several weeks.
But you put on weight pretty quick. You changed rapidly.
Because they were waiting for me to put weight on enough that I could be.
You had to reach a certain point where your lungs were fully developed. I think of what it was, but your breathing, I'm not sure, honey. It's been so long ago, been 26 years ago.
So in those, so fast forward, when I came home, I was on all kinds of monitors, right? I was on.
Yeah, well, you weren't in any oxygen. You were breathing on your own.
So
but
that
you
was
were in a bassinet.
That was probably one of my goals, was to be able to breathe on my own.
Yeah, you did, and you were beautiful. You looked real healthy. The doctors were pleased with the way you were gaining your weight, and so you were in a little bassinet there in Mommy's, Daddy's bedroom. We were in there quite a while until you went into a crib, but that when you're older.
Because they had to kind of watch over me.
Yeah.
So, when fast forward, I went to, you and Nana helped take me to Poland.
Oh yes, well after, your mother and Dad arranged for you to join that Euromed over in Europe for cerebral palsy rehabilitation, and it was a Polish concept.
And
they didn't have it over here.
What was that concept?
Well, they put you in what they call a deli suit. It's what the Russian astronauts used when they came back from space, because they had they couldn't use their muscle because they were in a gravity-free environment for months, but they couldn't walk or in there a week. So they had a deli suit, which was, they had connections to all your joints with bungee cords, like springs.
I had my recollection of it is it was blue.
Yeah, I think it was blue.
And
it was especially made for you. Now you were a lot bigger than now, honey. You were
I was much smaller.
What
Maybe
were you?
I'll.
Probably 6 or 7, I
So
guess.
beside me, you guys will see a picture, but I had knee pads on.
Yeah.
I had a vest on,
Oh,
a
right.
vest, and then shorts, and then I had to wear high tops.
Well, the orthotics you had on for your feet.
Yeah, so I had. Orthotic was a type of brace that I
It was
wore.
for your brace for your lower leg, yes.
Because why?
Well, because you had no muscle control. That's what cerebral palsy is. It affects it. It's in the brain, and your brain doesn't control your muscles.
So.
And you couldn't move your legs.
Were the doctors and therapists trying to figure out how to move?
Well, they were thinking about it through exercise, through constant repetition of physically moving you through your ankles and your arms and everything, that you would eventually be able to train your muscles to function normally. Well, I don't think that really works, because most of the children who are there, they're all degrees of cerebral palsy. Some were mild, some were very extreme. So that wouldn't work for everybody. Maybe the less mild cases, it might help you.
So fast forward from that,
Mm-hmm.
I also went to CPAC camp, which was conducted education that you came and visited me, and that was a different type of
Yeah, a
therapy.
little bit different, yeah. They had exercises for you, but here again, they had aides that they had people assigned to you, not just you, there were several of you together. And they had like a ladder where you tried to climb up to stand up. And they had different exercises for you.
So I could.
And that seemed to really help you, I think, in a way, during the summer.
So as long as you can stay consistent with certain methods that you use, it does help a child out.
Well,
However, it's hard to stay consistent with things. So it can be kind of interesting at times.
yeah. Well, that's true. That's true. We were unable to be consistent with your physical training. That's what, I guess you could say that, due to many, many reasons.
So when did you guys as a family make a decision that, I guess the key thing to remember is, if you're always getting pulled for therapy from school and stuff, academically that could cause some decline. So I think part of it, friends who are going to be watching this in the future, one thing I want you guys to take from my story is, I did try everything. My parents tried everything they could. Popsy tried everything he could. But there's a certain level of acceptance that you have to have when you're disabled like I am. Because at the end of the day, all the therapy in the world sometimes can't always help. However, don't give up on hope for your child, because they do have a bright future.
Exactly.
Do you remember when I first got au pairs and that whole transition, Popsy, with some of the interesting people that we had at the house?
Yeah, well, you were getting into your you were around 11 or 12, I believe, when you started getting au pairs from Europe.
What?
They were girls, mainly girls, of course, that would come over, and they would be there for a year. They had a year contract to stay at your house. They lived with you. They had their own bedroom, and they were assigned to the caring for you, taking care of your daily needs, etc. I mean, a lot like your right-hand man. They were
my.
Unfortunately, though, we had some pretty less than favorable experiences with some of them. I don't want to get into that. I don't know why, but some weren't very attentive. Some put their own interests at heart and not yours. I felt that they were genuine in many cases.
A lot of them were. I was 14 and a lot of them were 19.
Yeah, they're little old
And
girls.
There were some cases where it didn't always work out, but that's okay. As long as families were able to still preserve the safety and dignity of the individuals that they're responsible for, that's what matters the most.
Yeah. You probably had, I would say, what, 8 or
5 or 6.
5 or 6 au pairs, and then after you turn 18, by law or by whatever the regulations were, you couldn't have an au pair beyond 18, but you had a service dog, which worked out well with Redmond. Who was the first one? Redmond, wasn't he?
He was my first, and I don't know if I'm gonna have a next.
That's right, the only service dog.
So, Popsy, just to end this video out, do you have any advice for any parents of young kids with cerebral palsy? What would you tell them who may have just gotten the diagnosis for the first time for their child?
Well, you try to pursue every physical assistance that would be suitable for you in a specific case. You just be patient, show lots of love. That's the primary thing. Show love and attention, and help build your faith in yourself, like you did. You're very strong now. You're exceptional. You're extremely intelligent.
So
and you contribute much to society.
Helping them find their strength in themselves.
Exactly. Yeah.
To get them to understand that they are worthy of life outside their life.
We all got potential, regardless. So what we want to do is try to explore what those potentials are and do the best we can. That's the whole, and have faith in God, knowing that He's looking down on you, and He's going to help you achieve your goals.
What would you say to the person watching who may not have a faith in the Lord because they're in denial of their child's diagnosis?
Well, they got to develop a faith, because you got to have faith. We're put on this earth through God's hands, and you certainly got to develop faith, and don't be discouraged. What happens. You have to face it and do the best you can. I hope you to be responsible. There's so many parents who have disabled children aren't responsible. They neglect them. which is tragic. That is tragic. You've got to help that child, because the child grows up to be outstanding in many ways, and you're so thankful to have that child, regardless of what their physical condition is. And I think that's so important. Like, you are extremely loved by your family and friends. You have so many friends, beyond what most people have. Because you have an understanding
friends,
yourself.
I have friends that are from all walks of
You
life.
sure do. It's unbelievable.
So
You amaze us, honey, all the time. We say,
thank
oh
you,
my
Pops.
goodness. Amy just does what she puts her mind to do. You do it. You're a doer. You're an accomplisher. And that's so important. You don't look at your physical disability as a handicap. You look at it as an opportunity. And you develop that and explore that. And look what you've done. You're involved in so many activities outside the family, outside the household.
Because I have
Because
been,
you have high faith in God.
I have been given a voice for a
You're an
reason.
advocate, yeah.
So that's what I try and do. Thank you guys for helping me create a more inclusive and understanding world, one day at a time. Thank you guys for watching.
Goodbye.
Rest in peace, Popsy. On the screen you'll see 8/6/1930 to 1/10/2022. I love you, Popsy. I miss you.